control or pressure the person.
So acknowledging that our helpful nagging probably wasn't helpful at all.
Right. It's about clearing the air and creating a fresh start. Then you ask open-ended questions to help them explore their motivations for change, guiding them towards self-discovery.
Instead of telling them what to do, we empower them to figure it out for themselves.
Exactly. And that's where Let Them comes in.
Welcome to Witter. Who Has Time to Read? The podcast that brings deep dives for busy minds. Listen to AI hosts Jane and Dane and get ready to unpack the world's most captivating books in just a fraction of the time. Whether commuting, working out, or just squeezing in a quick break, we deliver key insights, thought-provoking themes, and takeaways you can carry into your day. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Plus, use our links in the description to purchase this book. Your support helps us bring more engaging book discussions to you. Listen and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Who has time to read? You do, with Witter.
Hey there, bookworms. Welcome back to Witter. You know, deep dives for busy minds.
That's us.
We are diving into the Let Them theory by Mel Robbins.
Oh, this is a good one.
Letting go, though, right?
Yeah.
Easier said than done.
Oh, absolutely. But Robbins doesn't just tell us to let go.
Right.
She breaks it down like why it's so hard. And then she gives us actual steps to actually do it.
Okay, so imagine you're Mel Robbins. It's prom night.
Oh, boy.
And you're chaperoning your son, but things are going hilariously wrong. No dinner reservations, a downpour ruining everyone's hair, you name it.
That's exactly how Robbins sets the scene. It's this anecdote that she uses to highlight that we all struggle with control, even, motivational gurus. It's this obsession with, controlling the uncontrollable, and particularly other people, that she tackles head on in this book.
Okay, so how do we escape this control trap?
It's a two-part equation. She calls it let them plus let me, let them, is about accepting that we can't control other people's choices or opinions. It's about releasing that burden.
Okay, so I'm starting to see the appeal, but doesn't that make us passive, like doormats?
Not at all. That's where let me comes in.
Okay.
Let me is about redirecting that energy inward. So instead of trying to control others, you're focusing on what you can control, your reactions, your actions, and your choices. It's about empowerment, not passivity.
So it's about accepting what we can't change and focusing on what we can. I like it.
Yeah.
But how does this actually work in real life?
She gives tons of examples. So let's say you're feeling excluded by friends.
Happens to the best of us.
Right. Let them make their choices, and then let me focus on nurturing the connections that bring me joy.
Okay, that makes sense. What about those everyday annoyances? Like waiting in a ridiculously long line.
Perfect example.
Right.
She talks about that. Instead of getting all worked up, she used those moments to practice mindfulness.
Yeah.
Like focusing on her breath, reframing the situation.
So it's about shifting from reactive to proactive, choosing how we respond instead of letting the external stuff dictate our mood.
Exactly. And this isn't just about surface level stuff. She applies this theory to deep-rooted relationship dynamics. Like, for example, navigating her mother's disapproval of her husband.
Ooh, that's got to be tough. How did she handle that?
So she emphasizes understanding what she calls another person's frame of reference. So her mother's disapproval was coming from this place of fear, like fear of losing her daughter, to another part of the country.
So instead of getting defensive or trying to change her mom's mind, Robbins tried to see things from her perspective.
Exactly. This approach allows for more empathy and compassion, which can be incredibly helpful in these challenging family situations, or even when you're dealing with loved ones who are struggling with unhealthy habits.
So we're not trying to force change on anyone, but rather influence them through understanding and our own actions.
Precisely. And speaking of challenging behaviors, Robbins tackles what she calls adult childlike behavior.
Okay.
Think silent treatments, emotional outbursts, passive aggression.
We all know someone who does that.
Right. And she argues it often stems from emotional immaturity and a lack of healthy coping mechanisms. It's important to remember it's not about you. It's about their internal struggles.
Okay, so how do we deal with that kind of behavior without losing our own cool?
So she digs into the science of emotions, explaining that they're essentially chemical bursts that last about 90 seconds.
Oh, interesting.
Right. And she introduces the 90-second rule. By acknowledging your emotions without reacting to them, you can regain control.
Here's where it gets really interesting. So instead of instantly snapping back, we take a moment to let the emotion pass.
Yes. It's about creating that space between the stimulus and your reaction, giving you the power to choose a more constructive response.
Okay, I'm definitely going to try that. But what about love and relationships? How does the let them theory apply there?
Well, she argues that it's key for building healthy and fulfilling connections. She emphasizes choosing love, not chasing it, and knowing your worth.
So it's about setting boundaries, recognizing red flags, and walking away from situations that don't align with our values.
Exactly. And for long-term relationships, she highlights the importance of clear communication, understanding, and compromise.
So disagreements are inevitable, but it's how we handle them that matters.
Right. And she actually gives tools for navigating these complexities. One of those tools is what she calls the ABC loop.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this ABC loop.
So it stands for apologize, back off, and celebrate. And it starts with sincerely apologizing for any past attempts to control or pressure the other person.
That's a powerful first step, admitting we've been trying to control the situation. What's next?
Then you ask open-ended questions to help them see their own motivations for change. Things like, what's important to you about this? Or what would you like to see different?
So guiding them towards self-discovery instead of dictating what they should do.
Yes. You're letting go of your need to control the outcome.
Okay.
That's the let them part in action.
Okay, that makes sense. And then back off.
Exactly. Give them space to process and make their own choices, even if it's tough to watch. Finally, you celebrate any progress they make, no matter how small.
That's a great way to encourage positive change. So it's about creating a supportive environment, not forcing our will on others.
Precisely. It's about influence, not control. She emphasizes that this isn't about manipulating people, but inspiring and supporting them.
This is all so fascinating. Before we dive deeper, what are some key takeaways that have stood out to you so far?
For me, it's really that interplay between let them and let me.
Yeah.
It's this powerful combination of acceptance and action, you know? It's not passive surrender, but a conscious choice to focus on what we can control, which I think ultimately leads to a greater sense of empowerment and freedom.
Absolutely. It's about reclaiming our energy and directing it toward things that truly matter. Our own growth, our well-being, the quality of our relationships.
Yeah. And it's such a subtle shift in perspective, but it can profoundly impact how we navigate life's challenges and build those fulfilling connections.
I completely agree. Now let's move on to how Robbins applied the let them theory in her own life, particularly overcoming comparison, building stronger friendships, and navigating the world of love and dating.
You know, comparison is something we all grapple with.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a human instinct, but Robbins points out that there are two types, torturous and inspirational.
Okay, that's an interesting distinction. So how do we tell the difference? And how can we use comparison to our advantage?
She suggests asking yourself, is this comparison torturing me or is it teaching me something? If it's torture, it's time to let them have whatever it is that's making you feel less than and focus on your own strengths and your own path.
Right, because their success doesn't diminish your own. But what if the comparison is sparking some motivation or giving you new ideas?
That's when you let me learn from it. Maybe their journey inspires you to try something new or shows you a different perspective. She even suggests using envy as a guide.
Whoa. Envy is a guide. That's a new one.
It's about asking yourself, what about their life or achievements is so appealing to me? That envy might be highlighting a desire that you haven't acknowledged or pursued.
So it's like a compass pointing us towards what we truly want.
Yeah.
I like that. Now let's talk about something else that can be tough. Adult friendships.
Yeah.
Life gets busy, people move, and it's easy to lose touch.
She gets it. She calls it the great scattering. And she breaks down friendship into 3 pillars: proximity, timing, and energy. Proximity is about physically being near each other. Timing is about being in similar life stages. And energy is that intangible connection.
So sometimes friendships naturally fade, not because someone did something wrong, but just because life happens.
Exactly. And in those situations, Robbins encourages us to let them go their own way. It doesn't mean erasing them from our lives, but accepting that the dynamic has changed.
Okay, so we let them go, but what about making new friends? As an adult, that can feel daunting.
Her advice: go first. Be the one to initiate conversations. Invite people out. Put yourself out there. It takes effort and intention, especially as an adult.
She really walks the walk, too. She shares how she felt lonely after moving and actively created new friendships by being the one to reach out.
It's a reminder that we have more control over our social lives than we think. We don't have to wait for others. We can be the connectors, the initiators, the friendship builders.
And it might be as simple as, hello? a smile, or a genuine compliment.
Right.
You never know where those small gestures might lead.
Okay.
Now let's shift gears to something a lot of us struggle with, influencing change in others. We've all tried to get a loved one to adopt healthier habits, right?
Right. And she emphasizes that we can't force change on anyone, no matter how much we care. The more we pressure, the more they resist. So what's the alternative?
I'm all ears. Tell me, what's the secret sauce?
First, she reminds us that change is painful.
Okay.
It requires effort, discomfort, stepping outside of comfort zones. And we often forget that when we're trying to motivate others.
We see the end goal, but not the struggle to get there. What else should we keep in mind?
Second, everyone believes they're the exception. We rationalize our own unhealthy habits while judging others for theirs. That's where empathy comes in. Instead of judging, try understanding their perspective. What are their fears and obstacles?
So approaching it with curiosity and compassion,
Yeah.
not criticism.
Yes. And finally, she emphasizes influence over control. We can't force change, but we can inspire it through our own actions and a supportive environment.
She calls this modeling the behavior change that we want to see. Like if you want your partner to exercise more, start exercising yourself.
Exactly. It's about leveraging social contagion. We're naturally influenced by those around us, especially those we admire.
So we lead by example, creating a gentle nudge towards positive change. This brings us back to the ABC loop. Can you refresh our memory on how that works?
Sure. So it stands for apologize, back off, and celebrate. And it starts with apologizing for any past attempts to control or pressure the person.
So acknowledging that our helpful nagging probably wasn't helpful at all.
Right. It's about clearing the air and creating a fresh start. Then you ask open-ended questions to help them explore their motivations for change, guiding them towards self-discovery.
Instead of telling them what to do, we empower them to figure it out for themselves.
Exactly. And that's where let them comes in. Then you back off, giving them space to process and make their own choices.
This must be the hardest part, especially when we're worried or invested in the outcome.
It is. But resisting that urge to control is crucial. Finally, you celebrate any progress they make, no matter how small. It reinforces that positive change.
So it's about shifting from frustration to encouragement, recognizing that change takes time and patience. Now, what about those really tough situations like addiction or mental health challenges? Letting go seems almost impossible then.
She dedicates a whole chapter to this. And she acknowledges that letting go can feel irresponsible in those situations.
Well.
But she also reminds us that we can't force anyone to get better. We can't want it more than they do.
That's a tough pill to swallow, but it's true. So what can we do?
Focus on what we can control, our boundaries, our actions, and the way we offer support. This might mean setting limits on what we tolerate, refusing to enable unhealthy behaviors, and seeking professional help for ourselves if needed.
It's about recognizing that we can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
We need to take care of ourselves to effectively support others.
Exactly.
She also emphasizes allowing the person to face the natural consequences of their choices, as harsh as that may seem.
Right.
Because constantly shielding them from consequences only enables those behaviors to continue.
Exactly. It's about trusting that they can learn and grow from their mistakes. Now let's move on to a topic close to many hearts: love and relationships. How does let them play out in the realm of romance?
This should be interesting. I'm ready to hear what Robbins has to say about love.
Well, she believes the let them theory is crucial for healthy romantic relationships. She emphasizes choosing love, not chasing it, and knowing your worth. And it begins with understanding what you want in a partner.
So moving away from that scarcity mindset, that fear of being alone, and stepping into a space of abundance and self-love.
Yes. It's about believing you're worthy of love and that the right person is out there. This means being honest about your deal breakers, those non-negotiable qualities you need in a partner.
And having the courage to walk away from situations that don't align with those values.
Absolutely. She also emphasizes recognizing red flags early on. If someone is truly interested, you'll know it. You won't be left wondering, guessing, or constantly seeking reassurance.
Yep, that makes sense. It's about trusting our instincts and walking away from anything that causes confusion or heartache. What about those of us already in long-term relationships? How can let them help us navigate those inevitable challenges?
She reminds us that even the most compatible couples will face disagreements and differences of opinion. The key is to approach conflict with understanding and a willingness to compromise. Instead of trying to win the argument, focus on finding a solution that works for both partners.
So choosing collaboration over combat. I like that.
Right. And clear communication is vital. Express your needs and desires honestly and respectfully while truly listening to your partner's perspective. This is where let them can be challenging.
Okay.
It's about letting go of the need to be right, to control the outcome, or to force your partner to see things your way.
It's about acknowledging that they have their own thoughts, feelings, and perspectives, even if they're different from ours.
Exactly. And choosing to love and respect them even when you disagree. Now, heartbreak is a universal experience, and Robbins offers a message of hope and resilience to those navigating its pain.
Breakups are never easy, no matter how amicable. What wisdom does Robbins offer for healing a broken heart?
She encourages you to let me grieve,
Yeah.
to allow yourself to feel the full range of emotions without judgment or self-criticism.
That's so important. Suppressing our emotions only prolongs the healing process.
She also suggests creating a support system, filling your calendar with activities that bring joy, and prioritizing self-care. It's about reclaiming your power, remembering your worth, and trusting that you'll find love again when the time is right.
So heartbreak is not a failure. It's an opportunity for growth, self-discovery, and learning to love ourselves more deeply. Now, what about those people we have to interact with who consistently trigger our frustration? Difficult coworkers demanding family members, or that neighbor who always seems to be pushing our buttons.
Oh, that's where let them can be truly liberating, except that you can't change other people. You can't force them to be who you want them to be.
That's a tough one to accept, especially when their behavior directly impacts us.
I know. But all we can control is our reactions, our behavior, and the way we engage or don't engage with them. It's about setting boundaries, protecting your energy, and choosing your battles wisely.
So sometimes the most empowering choice is to disengage, walk away, or limit our interactions.
Exactly. You don't have to subject yourself to negativity or toxicity. It's about reclaiming your power and choosing peace over drama. And this often diffuses the power that those difficult people have over us.
They might continue their behavior, but it no longer has the same impact on our well-being.
Precisely. Now, Robbins emphasizes that the let them theory isn't about becoming passive or giving up on our dreams and desires.
That's important to remember. It's not about surrendering our goals or ambition.
Right. It's about channeling our energy wisely, focusing on what we can control, and letting go of the things that drain us or hold us back. We have a limited amount of time and energy.
And we get to choose how we spend it. Do we want to waste those precious resources trying to control the uncontrollable, or invest them in things that truly matter, our growth, well-being, and relationships?
That's the question. The let them theory isn't a one-time fix. It's a practice, a constant reminder to focus on what we can control and let go of what we can't. It's about choosing freedom over frustration, peace over drama, and empowerment over exhaustion.
This has been such an insightful discussion.
Yeah.
As we move into the final part of our deep dive, what are some of the key takeaways that have resonated most with you?
For me, it's the reminder that letting go isn't a sign of weakness, but a source of strength. It's about recognizing our limitations and focusing on what we can truly influence, which paradoxically gives us more control over our own lives.
I completely agree. And now let's explore how the let them theory applies to something we all navigate daily.
Yeah.
The world of social media. Okay, so we've talked about relationships, personal growth, all these heavy topics.
Yeah.
But what about something that's part of our everyday lives? Social media. How does the let them theory fit in there?
Ooh, that's where it gets really interesting. Think about it. Social media is practically a breeding ground for comparison. We're constantly bombarded with these perfectly filtered photos, seemingly perfect lives.
It's true.
Which can totally mess with our self-esteem.
It's like everyone's posting their highlight reel and we're stuck comparing it to our behind-the-scenes bloopers.
Yes.
No wonder we end up feeling inadequate.
Exactly. And that's where let them comes in.
Okay.
Robbins reminds us that those picture-perfect online personas are often just carefully crafted facades.
Right.
We're only seeing a tiny sliver of their reality, not the full picture.
So it's about remembering that social media is often a performance, not real life.
Exactly. And we get to choose how much we buy into that performance. She encourages us to be more mindful of our own social media usage. Are we using it to connect authentically? Or are we getting sucked into the comparison game? Are we following accounts that inspire us, or are we constantly bombarded with images that trigger self-doubt?
It's like a gut check for our social media habits.
Yeah.
If following certain accounts or spending hours scrolling is leaving us feeling drained or negative, maybe it's time to unfollow or set some limits.
Absolutely. And remember, let them applies here too. Let those people post their perfectly filtered photos and curated lives. It's their choice. We don't have to engage with it or let it affect our self-worth.
It's about recognizing that we have a choice. We can choose to step away from the digital noise, focus on our own lives and values, and cultivate a sense of self-acceptance that doesn't depend on external validation.
Right. It's so freeing to realize that we don't have to buy into those online narratives that make us feel like we're not enough. We can choose to create our own stories, both online and offline, that are based on authenticity, connection, and self-love.
This has been such an insightful deep dive into the let them theory. It's amazing how this seemingly simple concept can apply to so many different areas of life, from relationships to personal growth to even our social media habits.
It's true. The let them theory provides this powerful framework for finding more peace, freedom, empowerment in our lives. It's about recognizing that we can't control everything or everyone around us, but we can always control our own reactions, our own choices, and the way we choose to show up in the world.
And when we let go of that need to control, when we surrender to what is, we open ourselves up to a whole new level of peace and possibility. It's not always easy. Letting go can be challenging, especially when we're dealing with situations that trigger strong emotions or deeply ingrained patterns.
That's where the practice comes in, right? It's a journey. And every small step we take toward letting go brings us closer to a more authentic and fulfilling life.
So as we wrap up this episode, we want to leave you with this question. What is one area of your life where you can start practicing let them and let me today?
How might embracing this approach transform your relationships, your mindset, and your overall well-being? Think about it as you go about your day and see where you might be clinging to control or giving away your power.
And remember, you have the power to choose peace and freedom by simply letting go. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. We'll be back next time with another thought-provoking book and insightful conversation. Until then, keep those brains buzzing.
Thanks for listening to Witter, Who Has Time to Read, produced by One Media. Please support the author by purchasing the book or audiobook using the link in the description. It's a great way to help keep the art of writing alive. And stay in the loop. Subscribe to our newsletter for updates on weekly deep dives. And don't forget to share your thoughts or suggest our next deep dive at witterpodcast@gmail.com.